Okay, I think we can start. Yeah, it's live now.
All right. So yeah. So this is the third session of the third day, and in this session, you have language documentation and grammatical aspects of Naga languages. And yeah, thank you, Monali, for giving me this opportunity to chair this session. This session we have a talk by Professor Alexander Cook, who is, I think, needs no introduction, a very familiar scholar for many of us. So yeah, for those who are not familiar, he's right now at Nanyang Technological University. He's been there since 2009, and he's an associate professor. His main interest lies in language documentation and description of languages of Northeast India, with special, I think, maybe specific to languages of spoken in Nagaland. And I think we're also very familiar with his grammar, Mongsen, which I think is a very important reference book for many scholars here in Northeast India. Currently, he has been working with languages the eastern part of Nagaland, languages like Kemungan, Sangtam, Yimkyungar, and maybe even Pom. So he's one of the very active scholars in Northeast India in Tibeto-Burman linguistics. And I think we are very fortunate to listen to him this evening. So I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our speaker. And yeah, those who are interested can also look up his academia page where most of his papers are uploaded. And if you're interested, you can go to his page. It's there to be downloaded. So the time given is 40 minutes. So that's going to be, I think, 30 minutes talk and 10 minutes for questions. And after Alex talk, we have 2 more paper presentations. So yeah, I think without wasting more time, I think give the time to Alex.
Okay, thanks very much for that introduction, Dimsa. And thank you again for the invitation from the Tiblane people. Once again, I'm very happy to be able to share my research with all of you who are just as interested in language as I am. So what I'll do now is I'll share my screen, and the slides should be visible now. Could somebody just confirm that they are visible?
Yes. Yeah. It needs to be in full screen. It's visible though.
Yeah, okay, it's just, I don't have it here though. Hang on, I'll try again. Okay, so. Okay, should be all right now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so actually I should mention that I'm presenting this on behalf of my collaborator, Dr. Timsa as well, because we've been working together on orthographies and literacy now for a number of years. Okay, so firstly, I'll just start with some acknowledgements. That I'd like to thank the Ministry of Education in Singapore for supporting this research. Most of the work that I've been doing for the last couple of years has been funded by this Tier 1 research grant, and that's allowed me to run some dictionary projects along with Dr. Timsa. I'd also like to especially thank the Patso Kiamningan dictionary team, led by Mr. Pakio Kiam, my long-term friend and collaborator, and also the Yimkyong dictionary team, led by Dr. S.J. Akam. We've been doing some great work together, and I'm looking forward to continuing our work so that we finally get our publications, our dictionaries finished. And thanks once again to the Tiblane team once again for inviting me to share my research with you. My computer is really slow. Okay, so what I'm going to be covering is a little bit of information on the historical background on the languages and the endangerment of languages in Northeast India. And then I'll talk a little about creating practical orthographies that are scientifically informed, something that is not necessarily common in Northeast India. Then I'll share with you the work that Dr. Timsa and I have been doing in these community-based dictionary workshops. And just recently, we've managed to create some dictionary apps as well as one of the outputs of the work that we've been doing. And I think that smartphone dictionary apps are a fantastic response to 21st century language loss. So I'll talk briefly about how we can make these. And then another aspect of our research has been developing children's illustrated reading books based on folk tales that are recorded over the last 2 decades. And I've been working with an artist colleague at my university and her students, her art students, and they've done the artwork. I'll show you some examples of these reading books, which are also a useful way of testing out the orthographies to see how effective they are. And then I'll just follow up with some suggestions for future prospects and some recommendations. And that should fill the next 30 minutes without any problem. So firstly, Northeast India, it's an ethno-linguistic hotspot. It's got 250 plus languages belonging to 4 different families. And it's likely that many of these languages will become endangered over the remainder of this 21st century. So we need to ramp up our efforts, because if we never write these languages and they die, then it's like they never existed to begin with. Oral languages don't leave any traces. And this makes it imperative that we record as much as we can, because we're losing our database as linguists on which we base our theories as well. And then there's also the issue of communities losing their identity. Language is certainly part of these tribal communities' identity. And so we should do all we can to ensure that the languages still have domains of use. And if we can create the new domains of use as well. Now, most of these languages are oral, and even the ones that do have writing systems, the writing systems aren't widely used. So this makes them quite vulnerable to language endangerment and language loss. And as I mentioned before, if we can create new domains of language use, then we're going to effectively deal with language endangerment. We have to embrace technology in order to create new domains of use. And of course, it's probably the best if we target the younger speakers, because they're the ones who are most likely to benefit from developing orthographies and a literary tradition as well. They'll most easily adopt the new ways of representing their languages. And of course, it's good as well to just document as much diversity as we can. So the historical background is that we do have some languages with orthographies, but these mostly were created by missionaries or by British Raj era administrators, most of whom had very little, if any, knowledge of linguistics, and certainly no concept of the phoneme. This wasn't really appreciated until Edward Sapir wrote his 1933 paper, The Psychological Reality of Phonemes. So one of the problems is that, well, all of the Tibeto-Burman languages and the Thai languages as well are tonal, but tone was never transcribed. I suppose they just didn't hear it or they didn't know how to deal with it. Another problem was that the glottal stop, which is common to these languages, was never represented either. And so that was an oversight. There was often a many-to-one relationship between symbol and sound. So it was very difficult for the languages to be standardized when the writing systems were so arbitrary. It was hard for, still is hard for children to remember how to spell words when you can spell a word in 3 different ways. So the legacy is that we've got all these bad scripts. They're very difficult to revise now, and bad scripts don't encourage literacy or standardization or even use. So I think this is why it's good to work on languages that are oral only, that don't have scripts, because we can start with a blank slate and come up with something that is going to be very effective rather than something that's slapdash. So why should we develop orthographies for these languages of Northeast India? Well, first thing, as I mentioned before, is this issue of endangerment. They're unlikely to survive this century. And if they die and we don't ever write them or record them, it's like they never existed. And I also think it's important that children have got the right to learn about the world in their first language, in their native tongue. Having to learn a national language or a globalized language like English really disadvantages children. And if the children of the Northeast can't compete with the children of, say, Delhi, who study in their native Hindi language, then it's understandable. We're not giving them a level playing field in which to compete. So here's another reason for developing orthographies, because that means that the initial schooling can be done in the vernacular language, and then the children will make a much better transition to then studying in a national language or a international language like English. And of course, a writing system is very useful to a community because it allows for very efficient dissemination of information. For example, healthcare, maternal health, how babies can be looked after more effectively, making community announcements, education as well. There are all these advantages to having a writing system. And it also has an impact on the beliefs of the speakers, because once their language has a writing system, then in their eyes, they feel that their language is at parity with any other language in the world. It's a proper language. So this can have a huge positive impact on language attitudes. So, and I mentioned before that diversity, maintaining it is a good thing in this world. We don't want to all be eating only McDonald's food, right? And we don't want to all only be speaking English. So next topic is orthography design. And I draw on Pike's 1947 publication, which is still highly relevant to this area. He identifies 5 objectives. He says that orthography it should be scientifically adequate for best reading and teaching results. It needs to actually reflect the linguistic structure of the language. It can't be offensive to the people or to the national government. So this has a bearing when one's choosing a script to represent a language. Ideally, it should be adapted to traditional alphabets of the region. And in the case of Northeast India, mostly it's going to be to Romanized scripts because of the influence of missionaries and others, rather than a Devanagari-based script. I'm talking about the people who live up in the mountains, of course. It would be different for languages spoken on the plains. And we want the script to be easy to write and particularly to print. And there is one caveat that we need to keep in mind, and that's that social and phonemic goals do not necessarily coincide. So we may not end up being able to follow all of these objectives or even all of Pike's principles as well. And there are 7 of these. First one, a one-to-one correspondence with phoneme and symbol, between phoneme and symbol is ideal. There should be no greater or lesser number of symbols to phonemes, and then we avoid problems with arbitrary spellings. The spelling should reflect the sounds as well. One really good thing about the Devanagari script for Hindi is that you spell it the way you say it, and so it's easy for children to remember how to spell. So we should aim for the same kind of similarity as well. And we should avoid having lots of symbols for allophones of a single phoneme if we can avoid it, because that then doesn't adhere to the one symbol, one sound representation. We want to have a representation of phonemic tone as well, based on the analysis of the tonal system of the language, and ideally consistently written on every word as well. I'll come back to this shortly. Assimilated loans should also be spelled as they're pronounced, and maybe we'll need to augment the orthography with extra symbols for loan words if that's necessary. The challenges are that, as I mentioned, some of the language of Northeast India have already got orthographies, and those ones that do have orthographies are usually poorly designed by 19th century linguists or administrators. They violate many of those principles I covered in the previous slide, or else the orthography has been created by a linguistic community without any guidance or input from linguists and without any understanding of the phonemic principle. And then once the orthography is maybe used for translating a Bible or for other important prestigious publications, it really becomes difficult to revise it. And the end result is that the orthography doesn't really serve the community. And I'll just briefly talk about some of the shortcomings that I find in the orthographies that I'm familiar with. Voice onset times, for example, are frequently not captured. I mentioned before, glottal stops are rarely represented, even when they've got a contrastive function. There are many to one correspondences between sounds and symbols, and I can pick on my collaborator, Dunsa Sang here to show that even in the spelling of his name, we've got 2 representations of the same central vowel people even have more than 2 ways of spelling. Sometimes they leave off the umlaut dots on the U, and so then you end up with confusion between U and O and sometimes these scripts are naively based on English orthography or another indigenous language. An example of this is the Tang dialect of Kiamningan, which uses the Chungli script. And they got that from our evangelists about 60 years ago. But of course, Chungli only has a single voice onset time, and Kiamnian's got 2. So that creates problems for spelling. And of course, none of them mark tone in their orthographies either. Okay, so the first step, the first thing we need to do is we need to make a decent recording of a word list. And I recommend recording around about 500 words. It should be in the dialect that's got the widest intelligibility, and then it serves as many members of the community as possible. I like to record 4 or 6 male and female speakers. Because there's so many musicians in Northeast India, it's usually quite easy to find a recording studio, even in a tiny town like Haflong. So you can make a very, very good recording in a sound attenuated booth, and then you can use that for acoustic analysis as well. I recommend using Benedict 72 or Matisoff 2003, the word lists that they've used in their publications, because then you can do some comparative work later on using the word lists. And also it's good to record the data in a variety of carrier sentences, ideally with different tones on syllables flanking the internal word. So in this example, I try and get the speaker to say the word first, and then I get them to say it in this sentence frame here, and then they say the word at the end. And then I get 3 tokens of the same word The first and the third one are good just for a transcription. The middle one is good for tone because I can compare it to the mid-tone of the agentive suffix in the word preceding and the mid-tone of the quotative particle following, and that allows me to work out what the tone is in the middle. And also using a sentence like this can help to reduce the intonation effect, the list intonation effect that you often get. For example, when people count in English, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they do this in, when you're eliciting data, you can get this effect as well. And of course, it destroys your chances of coming up with an analysis of the tone system. So it's good to use not only one sentence, if you've got the time, use a variety of sentences with a variety of tones on these words flanking the target, and then you might be able to do some tone sandy analysis later on as well. So the next step is to do a thorough phonemic analysis. So you can identify the allophones of phonemes and also the tonemes of the language, and you can decide on a possible representation of the tone, and I'll cover this shortly. We want to create an orthography that's based on the phonemes of the language, and ideally we want the symbols we use to represent those phonemes to be easily typed. We need to consult with the community to gauge acceptance, because it's not just a scientific endeavor making an orthography, it's a social activity as well. And you can make the best possible orthography for a language in the world, but if the community doesn't like it, then they're not going to accept it. So you might have to make some adjustments to accommodate the concerns of the community, while at the same time trying to adhere to Pike's principles. And I want to encourage everyone to mark tone, because it aids comprehension. If you don't have tone marked on syllables, if you speak a tone language and it's got an orthography that's not marked for tone, then you know that it takes you a long time to read a passage, because you've got to read ahead and work out what possible homophones are, and then what their grammatical category or their meaning is. And then you go back to the beginning of your sentence and you read it, but you get halfway through and you realize you've made a mistake, that it's not a word with a high tone, it's a word with a low tone. And so then you have to go back. And meanwhile, your English speaker's already finished that paragraph and has moved on to the second one. You're struggling with the first sentence. So this makes reading very slow and tedious. And of course, if you mark the tone, then it's much, much more intuitive. And I can show you an example in Zeme. So here we've got a number of words that are written with the same segmental representation, but they've got different tones, and this would take some time to work out if you're a Zeme speaker. But of course, if you mark each of the syllables with a tone marker, then that helps to minimize things, and you can then be able to identify the meanings of individual words, even when they've got similar meanings, much, much more quickly. So of course, you could represent it this way. This is how I represent the tones when I first start working on a language, because it's more accurate than using these diacritics. But once you've got an idea of how many tones you've got, then you might want to transition to using the diacritics, as in the interlinearized example. You want to choose diacritics that are easily reproducible on smartphones, because smartphones is where we're going to see written language being used mostly in this century. And it's good to try to augment an existing system rather than introducing something completely new, because you're increasing the burden on the speakers if you're making them learn a new system completely. And an example of this is that Zeme already used this this inverted V for the high tone. And so I use that, even though generally linguists use this for a falling tone. Another way we can mark tone is by using QWERTY characters, and I'll show you an example of this shortly. Well, right here, in fact. So this is one of the books that I worked on with Timsa, and other AL speakers. And the Q here isn't used as a phonetic representation, it's marking the low tone. And the X here represents high tone. So this is waza mung tang. And mid-tone gets no tone mark in the system. When we ran a dictionary workshop in Kunsa village near Mokokchung, the people we worked with in the dictionary team, they decided that this would be an okay way to mark tone in their language. I'm not sure if it will be for the whole community. I need to test it out. But the advantage of using QWERTY characters is that it's really fast to type. You don't have to take your fingers off the keyboard. So that makes it really, really easy to represent tone, although some people might think it looks a little bit ugly, and I can understand that as well. This is why I say you need to really get the community on board with whichever way you choose to represent the language. They've got to be able to feel comfortable with it and accept it. And just to summarize things so far, I want to emphasize that orthography design must be preceded by rigorous phonological and tonal analysis, and it's up to us linguists to do it. When we work with the communities, we have to consult them as well. It's a collaborative kind of an activity. We need to be sensitive to them and also respect perhaps their own need for and concerns for autonomy. And that's because we can't force a really good orthography on a community that doesn't accept it. And this last point, I think it's time for the linguists of Northeast India to push the government to develop an advisory board so that we can develop orthographies and hopefully dictionaries for all of the languages of Northeast India. That would be ideal. But we can't let them just try and do it themselves because, you've got to be trained to do this. This is a scientific activity and it takes years and years of study in order to become good at it. So next I'm going to move on to the bilingual dictionary workshops that I ran with Dumsa. And I started off doing one in Haflong here. I just did it for a week to test out this method that I'm going to share with you. That went pretty well. So then I ran one in Batso village, a Kiamningan speaking village in 2017 with Demsa. In 2018, we ran one on Mongsen Ao. And then in 2019, we ran another one in Shamator, working on Yimkyung, which is, of course, also known as Yimchung. But now the speakers want the name Yimkyung to be used to represent their language and their tribe. So I'm deferring to that. For a rapid words collection workshop, you need some personnel. You need a manager to record attendance, oversee general running of the workshop. We use teams of native speakers, ideally 4 or 5 people, including a team leader and a scribe. Then you need another team of bilingual glossers to do the translations. And for these languages, we need tone transcribers as well. You need to train the tone transcribers because they've got to be able to recognize a tone. And this is not something that everyone can do. And then lastly, you need a couple of typists and laptops so that they can enter the data that's collected. And the rapid words collection was developed by this SIL group. It's based on the concept of semantic domains. You have lists of words broken up into semantic domains. If there's time, I can show you how this app works. They belong to 1,800 separate semantic domains. The team leader selects the particular domain and then sits with his or her team, and the team members think of as many words as possible, and the scribe writes down the words. And then once they're collected, they go to the glossers who translate them, they go to the tone transcribers, and then finally they go to the typists who enter them into the database. I pay because I get quite good funding for this, I pay the consultants 500 rupees per person per day. I try and run the workshops for about 15 days altogether, 3 weeks. Usually there's about 40 people involved. we need a bit of extra funding for morning and afternoon tea refreshments. Maybe you need to hire a generator if power is an issue, and you might need money for fuel as well. You need tables and chairs for the participants, ideally spread out because it can be quite noisy, and it's good for them to work some distance away from other groups. Laptops with the software needed for creating the database, 3 or 4 would be good. You need a printer as well for printing out sheets, and a bunch of stationary USB drives for merging the files so that everybody is updating their databases. A whiteboard's really good for discussions. Total cost should be under 4 lakhs. But of course, before you do all this, you need to have an orthography worked out because you don't want to waste time doing, talking about the orthography when you could have it already analysed. Here's a little screenshot from the WeSay app. It's organised very, very beautifully, creates this fantastic corpus, and it's all pretty straightforward to use. You can choose what you want to record, part of speech, example sentences, recording of the utterance even. You can have images, you choose whichever options you want, and you enter them into this quite simple tool. Unfortunately, it's no longer supported by SIL. It's also quite buggy. So future workshops will need to shift to Fieldworks Language Explorer, or Flex, which will be a little more complicated, but still should be manageable for a community with some training beforehand. And this methodology potentially can result in 1,500 words collected in a day, but our experience is it's more likely to be around about 500 for a tone language because there's more work involved. Here are some shots just showing, for example, teams here. This is a dictionary team. This fellow he's a hunter, so he was very knowledgeable about flora and fauna, and we were showing him pictures, and then the scribe here, Pakio, was writing down the words. You can see the words that were written down were translated then by the glosses. Here, the typists are entering the data of these sheets that they get from the teams, and these fellows down here are glossing these are doing the tones, transcribing the tones. And here's Dempsey working out just to make sure that our tone categories are correct. This is what a whiteboard is good for. We can facilitate discussions. You can create a dictionary quite easily, a PDF printout from this particular app, and you can give that to the community at the end of the 3 weeks. This is very rough. We've still got a long way to go with these dictionaries. Just want to reinforce once again that we need to have a phonological analysis done and an orthography developed before the dictionary workshop starts. And this is an important point as well. You have to train the tone transcribers because otherwise native speakers don't have any idea of tonal contrasts. Once it's set up, you can also set up a project with a server in Payap University. So that means that I can upload my additions to the corpus. I can download the team's additions to the corpus. It's very, very convenient. Doesn't really matter where we are in the world. We can still share our updated corpora very easily. And I've been forced to use WhatsApp quite a lot because of the COVID situation. These are examples of how we can explore things as well, sending photos to each other, getting descriptions of particular plants or things for helping the students to do the artwork for making the storybooks, helping them to understand the culture as well. The advantages is that it's a really quick way of making a basic dictionary in a couple of weeks. I like how it's community-based. This WeSay software is pretty easy for non-linguists to use. And the project is potentially self-sustaining once it's been run as well. We've got teams now who've been doing this for a couple of years. And I mentioned how easy it is to merge data and to share it from any location if you've got an internet connection. We can also export the data to other various dictionary making programs as well. as well as to smartphone dictionary apps as well. So this is one that we've just recently made. It works like a dream. I probably won't have time to show you how it actually works. I can show it to you later. It's using these lexical interchange files or LIF files, which are created by WeSay and Flex. And it's a bit convoluted, the process to make the app, but it produces a beautiful Android app at the end. I like how it's cost effective. We can share this app with the community via Bluetooth connections, and we can continually update it and disseminate new versions as well. And if everybody in the Kiamningan community has got a copy of this on their phone, then they're going to become very familiar with the orthography, and that will encourage them to write, I hope. You can search in either in Kiamningan or in English. It works really, really well. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is creating these illustrated children's reading books. And this, again, are useful for encouraging literacy in these vernacular languages. I recorded folk tales quite a lot over the last 2 decades, and I turned them into books by working with these art students in the Art Design and Media School of my university. And what we're doing is we're creating the potential for pedagogical materials for primary school education. And once children start reading and writing in their own languages, then we think that they'll make a much, much better transition to education in national languages or English medium education. And this has been proven in a number of publications. So why the folktales? Well, I like working with folklore. It's culturally significant. It's relevant to the speakers as well. Children will be interested. They're useful vehicles for introducing literacy. Also, because the stories are familiar, they probably will have heard them before. It encourages pride in the Indigenous culture, and this is also documenting something that would otherwise only be passed orally. So it's vulnerable to language death. And of course, it creates archival data as well, which we can use for grammatical analysis and anthropological studies as well. And lastly, we can use these reading books to test the intuitiveness of the orthographies if we share prototypes to begin with. And I've got PDFs, be quite happy to share those. This is an example of the kind of work that our students do here. Their artwork is fantastic. They don't have any content, but their artwork is brilliant. So we give them the content and the scripts, and they produce these beautiful publications. This has got pop-outs as well. This would be extremely expensive to produce, so it wouldn't be practical, but we could make a simpler form very easily in India, and we could disseminate it in the communities. As long as they're accepting of the orthography, that's something that needs to be sorted out first. In the interest of time, I'll just finish here. Here are some references, and I'll just show some links as well to all of the apps and things that I've shared with you. And that's all I need to share with you, I think. So I'll just stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you. Thank you, Alec, for the talk. And I think we went a little few minutes behind, but I think we have time for a question or two. And after all the 3 talks, maybe if there's more time, we can I think take more questions. So yeah, 1 or 2 questions, if there are any at this point of time.
Okay, Tamshu, can I come in?
Yeah, go ahead, Wucham.
Wucham here from Sikkim. Thanks, Professor Kuf, for the presentation. I can't agree more with you when you said the legacy, the pet script, which is difficult to devise. I think that is the main problem we are facing today. If, like you said, if we start from the start, on a clean slate, it will be really easy, but because of that, it has been really difficult.
Yes.
I just want to clarify one thing. Are you of the opinion that when you devise an orthography, all the tone should be marked?
Okay, well, I know that there are differing opinions about this. I agree with Pike. I think that tone should be marked because it takes a lot of the ambiguity out of the writing then. But maybe a community doesn't need to have the tones marked. I think this is why you really have to consult with the community and make sure that they accept whatever script you design for them. What I would do is I would show them the advantages of how quickly it is or how much faster it is to read when you mark the tone, and then get them to try and read something in which the tone isn't marked. So I think probably we need to have demonstrations and we need to run tests like this, and then the community can decide what's best for them. Ultimately, it's probably not so important, but if I'm creating a dictionary that I'm hoping will serve as a standard, then I think it would be useful to mark the tones, even if the community decides not to write them when they're communicating. At least if the dictionary's got the tones marked, then it serves as a reference book in the same way that the Thai dictionaries that I use are good for reminding me what tones particular Thai words have got. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, okay. Also, quickly in reaction to that. So I have no issue with the tone marking, but I am more onto the side of not marking because, as you know, it's a syllable of these languages. They have a tone. So once you started marking, all the word will be littered with diacritics or so many things. So
Yeah.
that is also that also spoils the beauty of the orthography. That is also there, and yeah. So there is one main thing, and also as for the tone language speakers, mostly 70%, they also can understand through the context
Yeah.
of the reading. That is also there. So I just want to share that this point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you really have to consult with the community and decide what's best, and show them what the options are, and let them choose what they think is the best solution for their own language. And I agree that maybe some communities won't want to mark tone because it makes writing much slower, putting diacritics on. That's why I think that using QWERTY characters, keyboard characters, can be also possibly a useful compromise. As long as the community doesn't feel it makes their language look too ugly. Yeah, thanks for the question and comments.
Yeah, Alex, there's a question on the chat box. So it says, if a language has all the English alphabets and the community wants to mark tones by not using tone markers, what could be the best option for the community to adopt a way of marking tone in the orthograph?
Okay, well, I suppose one option is that you do use diacritics, and it's pretty easy to type diacritics on a smartphone. It's a little bit slower, but you don't necessarily have to only use the English alphabet characters, right? There's other things that you can use as well. There's a whole bunch of things, like, for example, the apostrophe or the colon. You can be as creative as you want, and you may have to be practical as well. So it's just a matter of being creative and doing what you can with whatever resources you have at hand.
All right, so yeah, I think if there are any more questions and if there is time left after the two papers, we will take them. You can also put your questions on the in the chat box. So we'll come back to that. Well, let's move to the talk by Dr. Charengna and the paper Grammatical Morpheme in Liang Mai. So you have 30 minutes. So I guess I'll be 20 minutes presentation and 10 minutes for questions. So, Charingla, are you
Okay, yeah.
okay?
Is it my slide is visible?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. Firstly, I must thank this Alexander Gopes for his interesting talk, and also I thank to Tiblani committee and the moderator of this session for this opportunity. This evening, I'm going to talk on the uses of grammatical morphemes in Liang Mai. This Post and Berlin classified Liang Mai under this Western Naga that's spoken in Manipur and Nagaland. Zemai, Liang Mai, Rong Mai, and Inpui are known to be a cognate group. But linguistically, Zemai and Liang Mai are very close, and Rong Mai, Inpui, and Maram are a bit more divergent from this Zemai and Liang Mai. This, according to 2019 ethnologue, there are means 49,800 speakers, but this census data of means Liang Mai does not distinguish between this Manipur and Nagaland. So the figure provided by the ethnologue is rather doubtful. Because why? Because in Nagaland, Zemai and Liang Mai are recognized as a same tribe. So this, they do not make this separate means Zemai and Liang Mai. So it's very difficult. And I think in the year 2018, this ISI from Calcutta, they came to Tesco University, and I have highlighted this issue. Okay, coming to morpheme. Yes, morpheme is play a very important roles in language and one of the most difficult area in linguistics. Sometimes we cannot get an accurate or appropriate meaning while glossing text or story or the sounds. So today I'm going to show how this morpheme function in Liang Mai. So in English, we can see the cat sat on the mat. So we can easily, the speaker can easily identify all the word. But we see Nyeona, Kasingriga, and Tobame in Liang Mai. So it's even the native speaker also cannot break the morpheme. So it's very difficult, and where word is ends or where the word is begins. So it's very difficult. So morpheme play a very, very important role in the Tibeto-Burman language and also in Liang Mai. And this affixes, let's see how affixes function in Liang Mai. The prefix, we can see this ka, this it's a prefix. It's a long morpheme, cannot stand alone, but they play a very, very important role. We see the shung is a set. It can be a set of the house or the tree or any set we can say. But when ka is added to the root, the prefix, it's become umbrella. It's specific to umbrella. And then moon is entranced when the prefix ka is added to this root. It's become this kamun is become door. And next we see the pa prefix. This rai is a plug. When the pa is added to the root, it become parai intestine. And pa is a kang, and then it's added become pakang. And then this ta, the prefix, this z is a sleep. When the prefix added to the root is become the z, bed. And dui is any liquid, maybe juice or honey or oil, we can dui. But when the ta is added to this root, it becomes the dui is specific to water. And this p also is added to become mintun skull. So coming to this verb, we see the verbal nouns in Liang Mai are derived from the verb by adding this suffix bum. When we see the verb tat or tiu or sak, then when this suffix added to the root become noun, the tat bum or tiu bum or sak bum. And coming to this adjective, above, I mean, above are derived from adjective by adding this suffix "zu." We can see masant, clear is an adjective, and when this "zu" is the suffix is added, then it's become clearly. And here sweet also, if added, become this above. And the noun coming to this augmentative, the D is indicate in Liang Mai is a largeness in size. When we say Nam, it's a village, but when D is added, it become a city, a big city, or house. When this the suffix D is added to this house key, then become the castle, the big house. And the water also is become, if this D is added, it becomes sea or ocean. And this diminutive marker poi suffix added to animal indicate the smallness. The T is a dog, but when this poi is added, it's become a puppy. So it's smallness in size. And even this hen also, if added a poi, it's become the chick, or the tiger. If added this poi, it's become cub. Okay, coming to this, the uses of this ye, we, le, me, ge. So these morphemes are used in the habitual or declarative sentences. Ye is used in the positive, and then the suffix ye is used when the unrounded vowels and consonants occur in the final positions of the verb. And we is also used in this positive sentence, and is used when the rounded vowels occur in the final positions of the verb. And le is used in when the alveolar plosive occur in the final positions of the verb. And ge is used in negative sentence. The ge is used when negative in the sentences. Coming to sentence, let's see this declarative marker. We see ye, as I told, when ye is used, unrounded vowel when it's occur in the final. Let's see, he is bad, pas sa ye. And they are good. It's peliu ye. So this R and E is ended in the verb, and we use this ye. We cannot use as a way or le or me. And way, the uses of way, the suffix, when these unrounded vowels occur in the final position of the verb. We see he eats rice, then pa tek you way. So u is ended here in eat verb, then it's become way. And ram writes later, then ram samlen draw way. We cannot use a ram samlen draw le or way, or means le or ge. We cannot use it. You can use this way. And suffix le is used, as I told, in alveolar plosives when it's occurring in this final position of the verb. We say he goes slowly. Then pa koina tale. We can use as tale, but we cannot use as talwe, or we cannot use as a tale, as I have told it before. And here also witubo pung skiuga ariaki tale. Okay, coming to this negative sentence ge, how negative is expressed in the sentence, we can see he is not a doctor, pa doctor mage. Here is ge is coming. We cannot use pa doctor magwe or le le or we cannot use. So it's ge we use. Coming to numeral classifier. So classifier are so bong morphemes in Liang Mai, they cannot stand alone. And it cannot be defined without this numeral in Liang Mai classifier. So we can see this the pattern, the order of this noun plus classifier plus numeral. We can see the seven men. We see Samai Kang Chen. So this is a rigid pattern. We cannot change this. So this Kang is occur between this the classifier. I mean, the classifier occur between the noun and the numeral. And the five dogs, we see the T Kau Mengyu. Then this noun denoted books take the classifier Huang, which is three books, Arya Huang Sum. Then here solid take the classifier Pum. We see four marbles. We see the marble Pum Madai. Then six fruits, Terasi Pum Sro. Okay, coming to this definite definiteness in Liang Mai is indicated by the definite marker C. So let's see example, the car is expensive. Haibo car C is it's a definite marker in Liang Mai, or she is beautiful. There may be thousands girls in the room, or we can say Pa Z means it is specific, or it is a definiteness in Liang Mai. However, C may not be used with the noun when it is not. It is clear from the context that noun reference is something definite. We can see that room ga refer to the definite room. So we can see I saw a man in the room. So it's ki samai khang katu room ga ngau bue. So here this ga is used instead of this C. Then coming to this intensifier, the chunk. This intensifier, the chunk, is occur as a circumfix between the adjective in Liang Mai. We can see this. He is a very good man. We can see Pa Mai Wi Sang Wi. So this sang is occur as a circumfix between the adjective. We can see she is beautiful. Pa Aliwi Sang Aliwi. And coming to my slide is what's wrong. It's not moving. Okay. Function of law and law. So law is used in imperative and law is used in interrogative. We can see example come in or ngolo or sweep the house, keep your law we use. And then when the direct question is law is used for law or what is this, has in the law, this law is used in direct question. Coming to this double subject in Liang Mai has this unique characteristic feature that here there's the subject repeated completely in the sentence. So we can see in the sentence, she is beautiful. So pa pelunwie. So the subject is repeated. Here we can see the then you are beautiful. Nang nelunwie. So here the subject is repeated here. Then peliu, they are told means peliu kau kue. Can you see this? Okay, coming to this finite complement clause, this Liang Mai finite complement clause. They're like this independent clause carry their own tense feature in agreement. We can see this this complementizer marker two. So it in Liang Mai, the main clause precedes the finite complement clause with you at the end. We can see he says that she is hungry. Padine pa plum pome. Chiu can, yeah, this can occur, and she knows that ram is ill. Ram sie pa sie ram mara chiu. We can use, and this contrast to this example. We can use chiu also. This follow the complement clause. We can see in the example, pa wie chiu aliu melume. So we believe that she is good, or she says that she is the owner of the house, pa the po chiu pa dine. So we can use this. So it's in the complementizer occurring in the both way. And coming to this suggestion, so people now in Liang Mai, people are writing in different way that I have showed the morpheme for where to use and how to use. I showed some function, but the community, they are writing in their different style. So some people may not be interested to follow this kind of style or rule, but however, the need of the rule in writing system for Liang Mai is very, very important for even the other language also. So we have a variety of means language depending on the geographical regions. However, uniformity at the core needs to be maintained. So this is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Charangna, for the paper. I think it's an interesting overview of the use of morphemes, particularly the affixes in Liang Mai. Yeah, so I have some time for. So if you have any questions, you can. Thanks. think there are a number of Liang Mai speakers. Yeah, please feel free. As I think of, is there agreement in Liang Mai?
What?
Because I think there was this. Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Oh yeah, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah, agreement. Do you have agreement between the subject and the because I saw in one, you call it doubling the third person singular pa in one of your slides.
Yeah, actually, it's not the agreement like Cookie Singh. We have this subject, double subject. Subject is repeated. It's different from the agreement.
Sir, I would like to come in. Can I come in, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, Mosel. Yeah.
I would like to again relook at the double subject matter, the same thing, and if the slide can be displayed again, I think example sentence number 13, either 13 or 14, I think.
Yeah, this one.
Yes. This she is beautiful. Pa Palun. Pa Palun is a
Yes.
Lun is supposed to be the face, isn't it?
Yes.
So she means pa,
Yes.
but what do they say about her, the third
Pa.
person singular number possessive?
Possessive.
Yeah,
Pagu. It will be possessive means it will be pagu.
Pagu.
Yeah.
Her.
That's what har is pagu. Pa.
Pagu.
That also har or si is a pa. So possessive means pagu.
So it cannot be Pagu Lun.
No,
Can
it's
it not
not.
be
It's
Pagu
no,
Lun?
no, no, no. It's not possible.
Okay. So Nang Lun.
Yes.
So
Pliu,
you,
pliu, lun. Pliu, kau. Yeah.
and what about your?
It can be possible. All the pronouns can be possible.
Can it not be Palun Vie?
Yeah.
Instead,
Pardon?
can it not be put? Can it not be put as Palun Vie? The sentence can it not be Palun Vie?
Yes, it can be possible. It can be feasible. Plunuye. But people usually use pa plunuye. It is more kind of common, and people oftenly use this pa plunuye.
Okay, but still Palun Vie is also
Yeah,
not
possible.
wrong.
Yes. It's not wrong.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Yeah. Any more questions for Charingma?
Damsa, can I just ask a question of Charingna?
Yeah, go ahead.
Charingna, do you ever get the marking of the pronominal on the verb as well? Or is it only, possessive type of relationship on a noun?
I think we don't have that. So
Okay.
far, I do not come across. Maybe possible, but so far I do not get.
Okay. Because of course this is how head marking develops in languages, and we see this in Kuki Chin, and Liang Mai is not too far away from quite a few Kuki Chin languages. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask you one other question? You had an augmentative D and then a diminutive boy.
Yes.
Are they respectively related to the word for mother and the word for child, or do they have some other source?
Yeah, it's possible even in human also.
Right, but is D, is that the word for mother as well?
No. D, it cannot be possible.
Okay, what about boy? Is that
boy? I think in human is not possible, but boy is a smallness in size, but pui is like I have given example like that he is a dog. When this boy is added, become the puppy. But in human, it's not possible. Pui become pui boy. It's not possible in human.
Okay, the reason why I'm
only in animal. It's not possible in human.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking is because Jim Matisoff wrote a paper on augmentatives and diminutives, and he commented on how the word for mother often grammaticalizes as a augmentative, and the word for child often grammaticalizes as a diminutive. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we will move on to the next paper. Thank you, Sarina, for your presentation. Again, if you have questions, we will take them again at the end of the all the talks. So the next paper is by Raguibo and Dinkur Bora. This is negation in Yimchungar. So yeah, if you are here. I think Dinku Bora is
yes
presenting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you have 20 minutes and 10 minutes for discussion.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Dinkur. I and my colleague Adi Ragwipo are sharing this paper. The title of the paper is Negation in Imchungar. The content of this paper is like negatives in Imchungar. It is mu as a negative prefix, tu as a prohibitive or negative imperative, yum as a negative particle, and a negative indefinite. The introduction. The Imchungar, with an approximate population of 83,259, census of India 2011, inhabited Tuensang and Kipra districts of Nagaland. It has 6 dialects, namely Chir, Phonungar, Kikir, Mukuri, Lungfur, and Langa. The Langa is the most prevalent among the tribes, and which is we can call Lingafanga and the standard dialect of Imchungar. The present study is based on the language spoken in Shamatu town of Tuensang district in Nagaland. Negation is an intrinsic notion in the world and in language, as Dixon stated in 2012. Most things of the world we talk about have a relative meaning. This can be described by lexical opposites or through a grammatical operator of negation. In Imchungar, there are 3 different ways to express negation. The default sentential negation in Imchungar is the prefix mu, the other negator in Imchungar is tu, and the third negator is yum. The negative prefix mu occurs with the non-imperative form of a verb as a kind of statement in the utterance of the speaker. The negative prefix to occurs with the imperative form of a verb which designates to a grammatical mood expressing a command, a request, or an exhortation. It also performs as prohibitive. The occurrences of negation in the language vary with respect to different types of sentence constructions found in the language, such as declarative, imperatives, interrogatives, and indefinite. Negation of main clause, that is mu, it is not justifiable to say that a negative clause is derived from the corresponding positive. They exist side by side, since that there will always be some explicit marker for negative but not a positive. In Imshunger, negative marker affixes to the main verb as well as to auxiliary verb. The default sentential negation in Imshunger is the prefix mu, as seen in 1b and 2b as the widest scope clause. Api nate asurula. This is the declarative sentence here. He wakes up early, and the counterpart of this declarative sentence is api nate musurula. So here mu is the negative marker that senses the declarative form into a negative sentence. He does not wake up early. Api nate shurupa. Api is third person singular, nate is early, shuru is wake, and pa is future response declarative. So he will wake up early. And the negative counterpart of the sentence is api nate mu shurupa. He will not wake up early. In a negative interrogative construction, the negative mu occur in both yes, no, and question word chapeau, as in 3 and 4. The negative mu always occurs in pre-verbal position. The question particle as well as the tense visa are also preceded by the negative morpheme in Imshunger. The example 3, it shows like nu I pangkupu mu ngute. Nu is person singular, ergative marker here, subject marker we can say. My pangkupu short, mu is negative marker that precedes the verb as well as the question particle. Having to see my shirt. Shapu muruk shop. So who is not coming? So the constructions of BP, that is predicative part of the sentence, that NP precedes negative, where the neg precedes the main verb, where tense is there, and it precedes the QP, person particle. The function of prohibitive 2. Every language has a grammatical construction used for telling someone what to do, which is positive imperative, and some means for telling what not to do, which is a negative imperative for prohibitive. In Imshunger, the negation in a declarative main clause is generally marked by the affix mu, but the same device is not employed in a negative imperative. The negative imperative or prohibitive in Imshunger is formed by affixing to the verb. Repeatedly, door, open the door. The repeat to read, don't open the door. Here to is a negative morpheme. The above example 5 and 6 has shown that negative imperative constructions where the prohibitive marker to takes the same slot as the plain negation in Imshunger. Few more examples of negative imperatives are given below. To shimo, nag do, don't do. Zim to shuk, rice, nag is, don't eat rice. The negative particle yung, the independent polarity form. Imshunger has two independent polarity forms, and yung, which can provide a one-word response to a polar question. M is used to give positive response, and yung is for negative response. So in the sections we will be concerned only with yung. Nu, haching to nanu. Second person singular. Here, eat question particle here. Do you eat here? So the answer would be like yung, and the another way of answering the question is like yung haching yung. Haching shufpa. Another way of answering this question is like yes, and another way is like haching shufpa. Yes, we will eat here. So ha'a mushi yung. This proximal cow. No, this is not a cow. So the answering of these questions would be like no yung haju kinwa. No, this is a dog. Negative indefinites. The negative indefinites in Imshunger are formed of question words where the negative affix mu is attached. The morpheme sha, which is a negative formation affixed, plays an intermediate role to adjoin the negative affix with the question word sha, tumu, kuching, etc. The morpheme sha, tumu, and kuching are used to refer person, thing, and place respectively. Examples: 11A, it shows E pushing ukia. First and singular, somewhere go past. I went somewhere. 11B, I pushing share mu ukia. First and singular, somewhere negative particle or negative particle, not negative, negative polarity items, or you can say negative formation affixed. Neck go past. I did not go nowhere. The literal sense of the sentence would be like this, and in English sentence it would be like I went nowhere. Certain words or expressions are sensitive to whether they appear in the scope of negation. The sentence 11C is ungrammatical in Imshungar as the negative morpheme share does not agree with the affirmative sentence. E pushing share ukia. Past one singular, pushing is somewhere, and share, which doesn't make a sound construction in Imshungar like go past. I went somewhere. Atruju, another some examples of these constructions are given below. Atrupuju nulungpe fulapte Q2 ching ucho. Man, the vehicle drive and town locative go drop. The man is driving to town. And example 13, it shows like the man is driving to somewhere. Atrupuju nulungpe fulupte kulim ucho. And the man is not driving to anywhere. Atrupuju kulimshe dulungpe fulapte mu. In a negative sentence, the occurrence of negative indefinites alone may mean ungrammatical. Therefore, it is always accompanied by the negative marker mu. The occurrence of negative indefinites along with the negative marker also results in a double negative constructions. Pushing, tumusha, mula. Pot locative, nothing, nag have. There is nothing in the pot. Ini, shasha, mucho. Yesterday, nobody nagged it. Nobody ate yesterday. The conclusions of this paper will like every language of the world have a technique for negating a clause. The process of negation in Imshungar is formed by fixing the negative marker to its constituents. Negation is expressed by 3 negative prefixes, mu, tu, and 1 negative particle, yung. The negative mu is the default sentence negation in Imshungar, and it has the widest scope in a clause construction. The negative tu occurs with the imperative form of a verb, and it is the negative, imperative, or prohibitive. The negative indefinites in Imshungar are formed of question words where the negative affix mu is attached. Thank you. Hello, sir.
Yes. If there are any questions for Dinku Bora and Raghuibo, you may switch on your mics and ask. Yeah, any questions?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dinku, in that slide of indefinite sentence in negative form, I just noticed that the order of the morphemes changed. Is it is it the criteria to negate, or is it that the word order is flexible? You had this nowhere, right? Nowhere when it came in the sentence, then the occurrence of morphemes just changed. If you can show that slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, which slide?
Yeah, this one.
14, 13.
Yeah, 14. 14 in negative form. The word order or the order of occurrences
Yes, ma'am. It is flexible in Imshungar that we can
Okay,
put.
okay, so it can occur after Wutsu, or it should be before that, the negation, or okay. So you don't have that. Okay.
Ma'am,
Okay, it's
ma'am, sorry, ma'am, I'm getting you. Hello.
so yeah, so the negation can occur directly on the verb without changing the word order, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Negation can occur with the verb without changing.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah. So if there are no questions specifically to the paper on negation in Yimchunga, I think we still have some time left. So I'm going to open up for questions for any of the papers that we've had this session. So if you have any questions for Alec or for Charingna or for even for Dinkur Bora, yeah, please you may ask your questions now. Yeah, as you think for questions, Charingna, are you still here? I just had a question on. Yeah, so you had these examples where the habitual or the declarative marker.
Yes.
So I think you had a slash between declarative and habitual.
I can
Is it in both?
I can explain without this slide also. This ye is occur in the unrounded vowels, and u when the way is used when this unrounded vowel, and le is used in the alveolar stops, and ye is used in negative sentence.
Yeah, so I think the were, way, and ye, I think can be, explained phonologically. But
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
I think I have explained. I have have explained that
Yeah, but then
ye, because of this assimilation. So because of this assimilation, the pa, sa, ye, sa is a unrounded vowels. Then it's become ye. We cannot say the way because of the influence of this a. And when we say pa, tu, way, because of u, and it's become way. So it's phonologically, I think I have
yeah, but
explained.
what about explanations for the other? Because I think apart from way and ye,
And lay,
you have other forms.
lay when this lay is used when this alveolar stops occur in the final position of the verb. But like pat means pat lay, it's become pat. Da is n and become lay. And then gay is used when in the negative sentence like lage or mage. So I think.
Yeah. So what is the underlying then?
Because of
these
this,
are all, I
yeah,
think,
because of this assimilation of the vowels, because of a or these rounded vowels, this assimilate, then it's become ye, and then u is become assimilate, then become we. I think.
Oh, okay. I think there's someone.
You still confused.
No, my question was on which one. What is the allomorph? Which one is the underlying? Because all these are allomorphs.
Yes, allomo, but they have a different uses. I have explained when it is unrounded vowel, then it is used as ye, and it is rounded vowel is become way. I think I have explained that it is the underlying meaning is they use in the different way because of the assimilation, because of this influence of the vowels to the neighboring sounds.
May I come in?
Wicham has raised. Yeah, Wicham, you go ahead.
Okay. I think Dr. Ujini, if you can kindly share your slide for the benefit of the house. I just want to come into what you both are discussing now. If
because now I have minimize my slide, and now my slide cannot be minimized because I have in the screen. So that is the technical problem.
Okay, no problem. So here, whatever he is saying, I agree, but in addition to that, or explaining in the different way, the root morpheme, the declarative marker is ye. And this form can become into 6 forms. I also work in Liang Mai. So depending on the environment it occurs, depending on the vowel it follows, the consonant sound or the vowel it follows. So like if the root is the base morpheme is the ye, but there are 6 allomorphs of that. It changes the phonetic form, but the function does not change. So depending on the consonant, depending on the
phonemes, maybe vowels or consonant, it's depend on
the form changes, but the function does not change. So he's trying to explain the various forms of the declarative marker ye in Liang Mai. So this can have like 9-10 forms depending whether it follows vowel or whether it follows the consonant. And this is basically because of the assimilation process.
Thank you. Yeah. So any questions? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Monali.
Yeah, that bound, I was just wondering if those are bound roots, your nouns and adjectives where you had the person markers, no? Why is it double subject? There must be a factor for that thing happening there, the process. Is it that those nouns and adjectives are bound, which is why you have the person markers as well as the free pronoun forms? Or is it like
No,
it's only topicalizing the...
Actually, the double subject is occurring in the adjective. When she is beautiful or she is tall, so it is double subject is mostly occur in the adjective of the sentence.
So is it like it's
not in the other way?
Topicalizing the subject?
It's not exactly topicalized. Just repeated the subject only.
Oh, okay. If I may come in here also, I am also not very sure on that. But when we say that when this Sir Mosil asks the question, he asks a very, I observe he's a very serious, observant person kind of thing. I really appreciate him for that. So nang nalunwiye. So I am not very sure on that, but when he said nang, he said it is repeated, the subject is repeated. But when the first nang, the subject nang is like, I feel like it must be something like focus marker. And the second one, nang lun. Nang lun, it is an inalienable position, possessive markers. Like it will be plun, nang lun, like that. So the repeated subject form can be inalienable position for the root lun. Lun is basically picture or something like that.
So those roots are semantically they are inalienable forms.
Yes.
Okay.
Not exactly, I think, inalienable form. I think inalienable means especially we use with this is a possessor. But here is, I think, different. With the possessive like his or her that he has asked, so that can be inalienable.
Yeah, but
here is there is no any possessive marker here.
Yeah, so that is actually optional. It can we also can say Lunwiye.
So but there is no any kind of possessive marker here. Then we cannot say that it is alienabled marker or something. So I think yeah, we have to look into it.
Those forms will be different actually even in cookie languages like Biate and Rangkol that I've come across. The same thing happens just like Liang Mai.
I think Kukizing and Liang Mai is different. We cannot bring it with other language and compare it. But here Kukizing is the agreement, but Liang Mai is a double subject. So it's, I think the process is a little bit similar, but the morpheme is the way they take is different, because Kukizing though they use the, but he eat rice, then he like you eat rice nang kay kned. So this is this agreement is there, but Liang Mai tu the subject is the whole it is repeated. So I think the process is different. It is occur only in the subject in the adjective of the sentence.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying actually. Even in Rangkol, it also occurs in some nouns and adjectives. It's not.
But here Liang Mai is only in the adjective, not in a noun or the verb or adjective. I mean in a verb. It's only in the adjective.
But it occurred even in face. You have given that.
Because of this beautiful, he is beautiful.
Okay.
So because of that.
So what is your answer for this? What could they be?
So my finding is a double subject in the sentence.
Yeah, why is it occurring? What do you think?
Because this is the nature of the language. So this is the people use, and the people used to kind of use it when they talk. So this is, I don't know how it is come also.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir,
okay, thank you.
Sir, I would like to add a little more on the previous question. Sir Charengna has said that Pui, the puppy, Pui to puppy is applicable to animals only. It does not apply to, it is not applicable to human being. But can it be is it applicable to birds also, or other materials like home, house, or road, or river? This pui, can it not be applicable?
Poi, yeah, it's poi. I think it's not applicable in the object. Yes, bird can be possible. Bird can be possible. Bird can be possible, but like other object or the stone or tree, it is it's not possible. The poi cannot be possible.
That means birds and animals only.
Yes. Not in human now. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Tamsu?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. If we have more time, two simple questions, general question to Professor Koop. Are you here? Is he still here? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. So, based on Pike, devising orthography, I mean, the suggestion is to devise orthography based on the nature, the linguistic features, the sound features, or the syntactic features of the language. That is what Pike is suggesting, right?
Yes.
Okay, so on this, I want to hear your opinion. Should we devise orthography strictly based on the linguistic features, or the social, or the I would say the convention? This is a big problem here, especially for Northeast languages, especially Nagas. They have like 50 years conventional writing system, but that is not systematic. And when we try to systematize, we have to base on the linguistic features. And when we bring in the linguistic features strictly, that is where the problem used to arise. So that is one thing. What is your suggestion or advice on that? The second question is generally, do you suggest the community to invent a script, new script? Because many people in the Northeast or across India, they are really after inventing new script, not knowing the practical reason. So what is your opinion or suggestion on that? Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the second question goes, I think scripts need to be easily learned, right? If people can't learn them easily, then they're not going to use them. So I've seen attempts to come up with like a whole new set of characters, not Roman characters, not related to Indic languages. Now that puts a huge burden on the speakers to try and learn. And generally it's not successful. So I think it's better to build on what is already familiar, and then that's going to have the greatest chance of it being accepted. As for the previous question, whether a community accepts a particular orthography or not, very much depends on the feeling of the community. That's why I say it's as much a social activity as it is a scientific activity, creating an orthography. Sometimes, for example, you might know that a particular sound is an allophone of a phoneme, but speakers might still prefer to have a separate symbol for both the allophone, or for maybe for two allophones of the same phoneme. And again, that's why I say that it's a social activity, creating an orthography. You really have to get the community to accept the orthography. And sometimes you can't adhere to principles. Even something like marking tone, right? Like we've seen two tone languages presented this evening, but neither of the presenters mark tone in their language, which strikes me as a little bit surprising, because why should we ignore tone when we don't ignore anything else? We don't ignore syllable coders or onsets. Are we saying that tone's not important? I think we should really do justice to the languages, and as linguists, we should represent everything about the language that's within our capability. Yeah, whether a community accepts the marking of the tone is different from whether linguists actually present tonal data in their presentations as well.
Okay, so can we say 50-50 middle part?
Yeah, well, it's, as I said before, you can create a very good orthography, but if the community doesn't accept it, then there's not much you can do about it. And Timsa probably can talk about attempts to modify the Chungli orthography, which was created by American Baptist missionaries in the 19th century and has numerous issues. I believe that linguists from the Central Institute of Indian Languages tried to make some revisions, tried to introduce representation for the glottal stop, but that created quite a lot of problems in the community. So it's a very difficult thing, I believe, to even make revisions when they're warranted. Maybe Timsa can comment more on this.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to continue on, Alex. Yeah, that's very true that the social, the community agreement should come. And when we say community, I think it's just not a few of the people who are who have a say in the community, because with the Chungli situation, it was people from the state, from the government, language officers and people who were at the top level who brought in these changes. But yeah. So when you say community, it's actually the actual community, not just a few members at the top who needs to come into this whole activity of accepting and reforming the orthography.
I wish to be a king when it comes to orthography devising. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. I think so. Yeah, we are out of time, so I think I'm just going to thank once again our invited speaker, Alec, and also our two paper presenters, Charingna and Tinku Bora and Hargui Boy, for your presentations. And I'm sure that the participants have benefited through our discussions this evening. So with that, thank you all speakers, all participants, and Monali, are you going to take over or are we going to end there?
I think just one announcement needs to be made that tomorrow there is a Budugaro session at 10 a.m. So participants present here today are requested to join tomorrow as well. So that's all I have to say. Yeah, thank you.
All right then. Thank you everyone and good night.
Thank you,
Thank you. Good
Tumsa,
night.
for moderating. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.